Alright, so I'm here with my top 3 films that I have seen before that I straight up refuse to ever watch again. And now this one was actually requested by my fiance. These are 3 films that I thought were so bad or I hated so much that if I were to ever watch them again, it would probably drive me to the point of going up to the Dollar General and buying a gallon of bleach and chugging it down immediately. These are 3 films that I just absolutely hate and will never, ever watch again. And 2 of them I actually own on DVD. And the first one being Daredevil with Ben Affleck. I actually, to be frank with you, don't really remember that much about the storyline. And I believe there wasn't much of a storyline to begin with. In fact, I remember this movie being borderline unwatchable. And I own it for whatever reason. I think I got a box of like mystery movies and this just happened to be in it. But will I ever watch this piece of garbage again? Probably not. The Daredevil TV show or series, which is one of the few series I actually have watched, is much better than this fucking turd. And I'm not even that big of a Daredevil fan as it is. I have read some of the comic books, but Daredevil has never really been my favorite like superhero. And I mean, this is the R-rated cut. There's a scene where you see a chick's tits. Other than that, this movie has nothing to offer, and that's not even saying that that's something to offer as it is. Nudity, to me, doesn't make or break a film. It may for some people, but not for me. And this movie is a pile of shit, and I can't even really tell you that much about the story. Alright, going to number 2, we're going to the middle. The Final Destination. This is the rental copy. I'm sure this is the ones that were sitting on the shelf at like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster. So I should start just a collection of rental only movies. Now, I'm not really a fan of the Final Destination franchise. I liked the first film quite a bit. I didn't think the first one was great. I thought it was pretty good. The second one, it was alright. I don't mind the second one. The third one I didn't really care for all that much. And the fifth one, I think I liked it better than the third one and this one. But I still didn't really enjoy the film that much. But this one I think is definitely the worst in the franchise. And not even just the worst in the franchise, probably one of the worst horror films I've ever seen. This came out back when the 3D gimmick, everything was in, all these horror films were in 3D, Saw 3D, Final Destination 3D. There are some other films that came out that were in 3D, and all that was just a gimmick, and this just fucking fed right into that. The kills are nothing to write home about in this movie. I know that at the beginning, a lot of people got excited over the stock car race scene at the beginning of the film. I found it to be a bunch of hokey bullshit, and it looked horrible. And so did every death in this film, because they got rid of quality deaths, and they put the 3D gimmick, or they gave us a 3D gimmick at the expense of quality filmmaking back in this little era. And this, like I said, this is just a product of its time, and it's still to this day one of the worst horror films I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not including like B movies or whatever, B-list horror movies, because those are on smaller budgets. This is a big budget horror film. Well, I mean a big budget for a horror film, because horror films generally aren't made on very big budgets like a fucking Transformers or Avengers movie would be made on. But for like a popular franchise horror film, this was definitely not up to snuff. Now, a lot of people say Final Destination 2 is the best in the franchise. I would disagree. I think it's very mediocre at worst. It's good at best. The first Final Destination film, to me, is still the best in the franchise, because I genuinely like that film. Alright, now, the last one I actually don't own, and I have a good reason for not owning it. Number 1 is going to be Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Oh my god, this movie. I remember when I left the theater after The Force Awakens, I thought that The Force Awakens was a good movie at the time. I enjoyed The Force Awakens at first. And The Force Awakens, like, a lot of people complain because they say that it just caused everybody to ask questions without answers. I knew that it was going to be this was going to be a trilogy. You had to have been fucking blind to not know that this was going to be a trilogy. And I had questions, yes, and I was looking forward to finding out the answer to these questions. And I go to the theater December 2017, pumped for this fucking film. I mean, fucking pumped for this film. And I sat down in the theater, and I had my popcorn and my sugar-free grape water. And, well, history was made that night. This was the first time in the history of my cinema-going experiences that I actually got up and left during a film, because of how bad it was. I knew from the second where Rey hands Luke the lightsaber, looks at it, and we're building up to something big here, and then he just throws it off the cliff and walks away. That is a huge continuity error, and I'll explain why, but I knew from that point forward that this was going downhill. And the point that I left is when they killed Snoke without building it up, without giving him any kind of backstory. I thought Snoke was a cool villain that was established in The Force Awakens. I remember at that point I got up, left my seat, and I stood there and watched that horribly choreographed duel with Kylo and Rey and those fucking guards, the Praetorian guards, whatever the fuck they're called. I don't know what they're fucking called. I don't care. I don't get into the lore of the Disney trilogy as much as I did with the prequels and the original trilogy. I was much more into the expanded lore and the books before Disney decided that those weren't canon. But yeah, I stood there kind of by the exit watching the scene, and when that scene was over and Kylo tries to get Rey to turn to the dark side, I was standing there kind of hoping, like, okay, here's actually a good opportunity to make Rey turn to the dark side for a little bit. And then they just played it safe, and she pretty practically said, no, I'm not going to turn to the dark side. Which I thought was a good opportunity to do something cool. Because, I mean, you're going to redeem her in the next film anyway. But if you're, like I kept saying, if you're going to go there, go there. And they never went there. And I just found the rest of the movie to be very hollow and the storyline to be very messy. One of the biggest problems with The Last Jedi for me was the hollow love story. A very, 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 very hollow love story with Finn and Rose, because they were building up Rey and Finn to be together in the first film, or the seventh film, rather. And I feel like Rian Johnson took this script and practically said, okay, so here's what we've established first. Now, fuck all of that. Here's what I want to do, and I want to take this in a wildly different direction. And you can't do that in the second film of a 3-act or a 3-movie trilogy. You can't just go in some wildly different direction. You can't do that when you're in the middle of a trilogy. And I try to express that to people. The movie is filled with just a bunch of war politics, and I will give credit where credit is due, though. The effects look phenomenal. They're out of this world. This is one of the best looking Star Wars movies. Like, this is a very, very pleasing movie to look at. It's just everything else falls kind of flat on its face. They practically assassinate. This isn't a fucking attempt at character assassination of Luke Skywalker, it feels like. It doesn't feel like the same guy that saved the galaxy in the original trilogy. It doesn't feel anything like him. I don't understand the thought process here, where in the last film he gave a map to the resistance and practically said, if the First Order ever takes control of the galaxy, to come find me, a map pointing at his exact location. That's what they're looking for in The Force Awakens. That's what the First Order is looking for throughout the entire film. And we finally find out where it is, and Rey goes and finds Luke. And that's where The Force Awakens cuts off, and where The Last Jedi picks up. And I found it very odd that Luke would be all like, why are you here? I don't want to do... It doesn't... That's the continuity error that I was talking about. Why would Luke leave a map telling you where he is, right? In case the First Order ever decides to take over the galaxy, and then you go and find him, and he's turned into this nihilistic fucking hermit who hates everybody, and practically no lives, like nothing matters, human life doesn't matter, fuck everybody, I just want to die in the sun. See how little sense that fucking makes? That makes no sense to what they've established, and that certainly doesn't make any sense to the character of Luke Skywalker. I view The Last Jedi as a viewing experience to be like, okay, like this. Since this movie likes Rian Johnson's a filmmaker who likes to subvert your expectations, I view it like this. You go to an expensive steakhouse, like a world-renowned steakhouse, and you get sat at your table, you order a beer or whatever, you're having a nice time, and you start looking at the steaks on the menu, and you see like this, I don't know, 28-ounce porterhouse cooked to perfection, or however you want it, cooked to order, obviously. This is like the best steakhouse you could go, very expensive, world-renowned steakhouse. And you say to the waiter, I'd like the porterhouse cooked medium rare, medium, however you like your steak cooked, and whatever on the side. Waiter says okay. And you wait for a little bit for your steak to come out, and here comes the chef with a fucking roasted king cobra carcass. And they say, here you go, I subverted your expectations. I know what it was you wanted, but I wanted to surprise you instead. And you're kind of sat there thinking, okay. I was kind of hoping you were going to surprise me with how well you cooked my steak. But I guess the king cobra carcass has to fly. No, see, that's not... Subverting expectations. It's one thing to subvert your expectations, but it's another thing to do it so poorly, like Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi. I don't think I've even seen a film from Rian Johnson that I've enjoyed. Now, I know everybody likes that Knives Out, which was directed by Rian Johnson because he subverts expectations. I had Knives Out figured out within the first 10, 15 minutes of the movie. Now, like I said, a lot of people really liked Knives Out. Rian Johnson, to me, I just don't feel like he'll ever redeem himself as a filmmaker. And I think that at this point, Rian Johnson, to me, sucks and fails as a human being. It's just like, ooh, look at me, I'm Rian Johnson, and I'm an edgy filmmaker, and I like to subvert expectations. No, you know what? You're not a filmmaker, Rian Johnson. You are a piece of shit human being, and honestly, I wouldn't piss on you if you were on fucking fire. Fuck, I hate Rian Johnson, and I hate The Last Jedi. It literally ruined what could have been a great third trilogy of Star Wars films. Now, Rise of Skywalker, however, I mean, I had fun with Rise of Skywalker. And a lot of people complained about the flaws in Rise of Skywalker. And I'm like, yeah, those flaws are going to be there because of how badly The Last Jedi screwed the pooch. So J.J. Abrams kind of just had to fall back on what we knew as Star Wars fans. That's why we got, in a very contrived way, and I don't blame J.J. Abrams for this. I don't blame The Rise of Skywalker for sucking. because of where The Last Jedi ended things. But we found a very contrived way to bring Emperor Palpatine back, which it was great to see Ian McDiarmid come back as Palpatine, and it was good to see Lando Calrissian and all them come back. That was nice to see as a Star Wars fan. It's just, there was really nowhere else to go after The Last Jedi, and I don't think I will ever watch The Last Jedi again. And it's ruined the trilogy, because like I said, it changed how I felt about The Force Awakens. Because I thought that The Force Awakens was a fun return to Star Wars, and it was setting up for an amazing second act. And they didn't do it. They didn't follow through on it. Instead, they just added a bunch of... I really hate The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi is my most hated film of all time. I know there's... Oh, fuck. I know that there's people out there that love it. And that's fine. You are entitled to your opinion. But... This is just my opinion. This is why there are fundamental errors within The Last Jedi that I noticed that bogged the film down for me. So, I don't know. Those are my top 3 films that I practically refuse to watch again. So what did you guys think of the video? What are your top 3 films that you refuse to watch again? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'm out. Peace.